Introduction. Do you ever find yourself staring at a problem, feeling completely overwhelmed? Perhaps you're facing a complex project at work, with dozens of tasks, deadlines, and people involved, and you just don't know where to begin. Or maybe you're trying to make a significant life decision, like choosing a university, buying a house, or deciding on the best care for an elderly parent, and the sheer number of options and factors leaves your head spinning. It's like trying to navigate a dense forest without a map or compass. You know you need to move forward, but every path looks confusing, and the fear of making the wrong choice can be paralyzing. Maybe it's not always big decisions, sometimes it's the daily grind. Your inbox is overflowing, your to-do list is a mile long, and you feel constantly busy but not necessarily productive. You jump from one urgent task to another, feeling reactive rather than in control. It's like trying to juggle too many balls. Eventually, something gets dropped. Think about Sarah, a marketing manager I once knew. She was brilliant and creative, but her desk always looked like a whirlwind had hit it. She juggled multiple campaigns, urgent requests from sales, and constant emails. She felt perpetually behind, stressed, and unsure if she was focusing on the right things. She reacted to whatever seemed loudest, often missing important strategic work. She wished for a system, a way to see the bigger picture and prioritize effectively, but felt too busy being busy to find one. Many of us can relate to Sarah's situation in some way. We've all experienced these moments, feeling stuck, stressed, wishing for a clearer, calmer, more effective way to manage the complexities life throws at us. What if I told you there's a way to cut through that fog, to tame that chaos? A way to organize your thoughts, simplify complex situations, make decisions with more confidence, and ultimately feel more in control. There is, and it's called framework thinking. Now, don't let the name sound intimidating or overly academic. At its heart, framework thinking is simply about using mental structures, frameworks, to help us think more clearly, strategically, and effectively. Think of it as upgrading your mental operating system. It's like having a well-organized toolkit for your mind. A skilled carpenter doesn't just use a hammer for every job, right? They have saws for cutting, screwdrivers for fastening, measuring tapes for precision, levels for alignment. Each tool perfectly suited for a specific task. Similarly, a framework thinker cultivates a collection of mental tools. The 5 whys, which we'll explore later, acts like a diagnostic tool to find the root cause of a problem, much like a mechanic uses specific equipment to find engine trouble. The Eisenhower matrix functions like a sorting tray, helping you separate urgent tasks from truly important ones. Mind mapping is like a whiteboard for brainstorming and connecting ideas visually. These frameworks aren't rigid rules, they are versatile instruments that provide leverage for your thinking, helping you tackle different mental jobs with the right approach. Imagine you want to bake a delicious, complex cake for the first time. You could just guess the ingredients, mix them randomly, and hope for the best. The result would likely be unpredictable, maybe even disastrous. Or you could use a detailed recipe. That recipe is a perfect example of a framework. It gives you structure, a precise list of ingredients, specific steps in the right order, cooking temperatures and time. It transforms a potentially chaotic process into a manageable sequence, guiding you reliably from raw ingredients to a successful outcome. Framework thinking provides similar recipes or blueprints for your thinking process. It helps you organize scattered information, identify patterns and connections you might otherwise miss, and follow a logical path towards a solution, a decision, or a deeper understanding. In today's world, the ability to think clearly and manage complexity is more important than ever. We are constantly bombarded with information, faced with rapid change, and expected to make good decisions quickly. Relying solely on intuition or reacting impulsively often isn't enough. Framework thinking offers a more reliable, systematic approach. Try this. Pause for just a moment. Think about your own life right now, your work, your studies, your personal projects, or even just managing your household. Can you identify one specific area where you often feel overwhelmed, confused, or unsure where to start? Just hold that situation in your mind. Recognizing these areas is the first step towards seeing where framework thinking might offer some relief. We'll come back to this later. So why should you invest the next couple of hours listening to this audiobook? What transformation can you expect? By learning about and practicing framework thinking, you can unlock some truly powerful benefits. You'll discover how to gain crystal clarity, even when faced with the messiest, most complex situations imaginable. You'll learn practical techniques to make smarter, more confident decisions, often more quickly and with significantly less stress and second-guessing. Frameworks will empower you to reduce that crushing feeling of overwhelm by showing you how to break down daunting challenges into smaller, actionable, more manageable pieces. And as a wonderful side effect, learning to structure your own thoughts will dramatically improve your ability to communicate your ideas clearly and persuasively to others. Think about it. When your own thinking is organized, your explanations become more logical and easier to follow. Whether you're presenting a complex proposal at work, explaining a plan to your team, negotiating a contract, or simply discussing important family matters, structured thinking allows you to articulate your points coherently, anticipate questions, and build a stronger case. This improved communication can lead to better collaboration, stronger relationships, and greater influence. In this audiobook, we'll embark on an exploration of the world of framework thinking together. We'll start by building a solid foundation, understanding the basics. What exactly is a framework, and why are they so incredibly useful in navigating modern life? Then, we'll move from theory to practice, diving into a variety of practical, real-world examples. We'll look closely at several common and powerful frameworks, often called mental models, which are specific thinking tools you can start using right away for tasks like solving persistent problems, making difficult decisions, planning projects, and even learning new skills more efficiently. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, we'll talk about how you can actively build your own personalized mental toolkit and weave framework thinking into the fabric of your everyday life, making it a natural and sustainable habit. And please, rest assured, this journey is designed for everyone. You don't need a special background or advanced degree. If English is not your first language, or if you sometimes find complex topics a bit challenging, don't worry, I'll be explaining everything using simple, clear, accessible language. My primary goal is to make these powerful ideas understandable and immediately useful. We'll use plenty of relatable examples drawn from everyday life and work, and we'll steer clear of unnecessary jargon or overly academic explanations. Think of this as a friendly, practical conversation, exploring effective ways to enhance our thinking together. Are you ready to sharpen your thinking, gain profound clarity, reduce stress, and approach challenges with newfound confidence and skill? Fantastic! Let's begin our journey into the practical power of framework thinking. Part 1. Understanding the basics. Welcome back. In our introduction, we painted a picture of framework thinking as a mental toolkit, a way to navigate complexity with greater clarity and confidence. We liken frameworks to recipes and blueprints, guides that bring structure to our thinking. Now let's roll up our sleeves and dive deeper into the fundamentals. What exactly do we mean by a framework in this context? And why should we bother using them? Let's explore these foundational ideas together. Chapter 1. What exactly is a framework? We started with the analogy of a recipe, which is excellent for understanding the basic idea of structure and steps. Let's expand on that with a few more images to really solidify the concept. Think about constructing a large, complex building. Before the concrete is poured or the walls go up, what do the builders erect? Scaffolding. This temporary metal structure provides essential support, allows workers to reach different levels safely, and gives an overall shape to the construction process. It's a framework that enables the complex task of building. A mental framework functions much like that scaffolding for your thoughts. It provides structure, support, and a systematic way to approach building and understanding, constructing a solution, or developing an idea, step by logical step. Or consider navigating a large, unfamiliar city. A map or a GPS navigation system is indispensable, isn't it? It doesn't show every single tree or shop window, but it highlights the main roads, key landmarks, potential routes, and your current location relative to your destination. It simplifies the complexity of the city into a usable format, helping you navigate efficiently from point A to point B without getting hopelessly lost. A thinking framework acts like a mental map or navigation system for tackling a problem, understanding a complex topic, or making a decision. It highlights the key areas to consider, suggests potential paths or steps, and helps you stay oriented towards your goal. Without a map, you might wander aimlessly, waste time, and feel increasingly frustrated. With a map, a framework, you have direction and confidence. Here's another way to look at it. Think of a well-organized filing system. Imagine trying to find one specific document in an office where papers are just piled randomly everywhere. It would be a nightmare. A good filing system provides a framework, cabinets, folders, labels, categories that allows you to store information logically and retrieve it quickly when needed. Similarly, a mental framework acts like a container or filing system for your thoughts and information. When faced with a flood of data or ideas, a framework helps you sort, categorize, and connect them logically. It puts related pieces together, making it much easier to see the bigger picture, understand relationships, and avoid feeling overwhelmed by information overload. Even the rules of grammar in a language act as a framework. They provide a structure for how words should be combined to create meaningful sentences. Without this framework, communication would be chaotic and confusing. The grammatical structure allows us to express complex ideas clearly. So, what are the common threads, the key characteristics that define these mental frameworks? We touched on 3 earlier. Let's revisit and expand. Structure. This is the most fundamental aspect. Frameworks break down a complex task, problem, or idea into smaller, more manageable parts, steps, or categories. This structure provides a clear path and prevents you from feeling lost. It turns a mountain into a series of small hills. 2. Reusability. Good frameworks aren't just for one-time use. Like a versatile recipe you use again and again, a well-understood thinking framework can often be applied to many different, though perhaps similar, situations. A framework for effective project planning can be adapted for projects large and small, at work or at home. A framework for analyzing arguments can be used whether you're reading the news or listening to a debate. 3. Focus. In a world full of distractions, frameworks help you concentrate on what truly matters. By highlighting the most important elements, questions, or steps, they prevent you from getting sidetracked by irrelevant details or minor issues. They act like a spotlight, directing your mental energy towards the critical aspects of the situation. Systematic approach. Frameworks encourage a deliberate, step-by-step process rather than haphazard guessing or purely intuitive leaps. This systematic nature makes your thinking more reliable, repeatable, and easier to explain to others. Now, let's contrast this structured approach more vividly with its opposite, unstructured or reactive thinking. Imagine a company facing a sudden drop in sales. A reactive approach might involve panicked, disconnected actions, slashing prices randomly, blaming the sales team, launching a poorly thought-out marketing campaign, all without a clear understanding of the underlying cause. This kind of thinking is driven by immediate pressure and often lacks a coherent strategy. It's like trying to put out a fire by randomly throwing buckets of water without knowing where the source of the fire is. Or think about your own day. You sit down intending to work on an important report. An email notification pops up. It looks interesting. You click it. That leads you to a website. You see another interesting link. Before you know it, an hour has passed, and you haven't even started the report. That's reactive thinking in action. Being pulled along by immediate stimuli rather than following a deliberate plan. My friend Mark used to call this shiny object syndrome. Constantly distracted by the newest, most interesting thing, rather than sticking to the plan. Reactive thinking might feel faster in the moment, for very simple routine things, but when dealing with complexity, uncertainty, or important goals, it often leads to confusion, wasted effort, costly mistakes, and solutions that don't last because they don't address the root problem. We might miss crucial information, let our biases or emotions dictate our choices, or spend hours going in circles. Framework thinking, conversely, promotes a more deliberate, conscious, and organized way of engaging with the world. It encourages us to pause, step back, and ask, what's really going on here? What's the best way to approach this? Is there a structure or model that can help me think this through effectively? It might feel like it takes an extra moment up front to choose and apply a framework, like consulting the map before starting your journey. But this initial investment almost always pays off by leading to a better outcome, reached more efficiently and with less stress in the long run. Let's revisit our simple example of weekly meal planning. The reactive approach is deciding dinner at 6 p.m. each night, often leading to frantic grocery runs, repetitive meals, or unhealthy takeout. The framework approach involves setting aside a short time, perhaps on the weekend, to follow a simple structure. 1. Check pantry fridge for existing ingredients. 2. Browse recipes or decide on meals for the week, considering variety and health. Create a consolidated grocery list based only on what's needed for those meals. 4. Shop efficiently using the list. This simple framework transforms a daily source of stress into a manageable, organized task. It saves time, reduces decision fatigue during the week, cuts down on food waste, and usually results in healthier, more varied meals. That's the practical power of applying even a very basic framework to everyday life. Frameworks themselves can range from very simple checklists or 2x2 grids like the Eisenhower matrix we'll discuss later, to more complex multi-step methodologies used in scientific research or business strategy. The key isn't the complexity of the framework itself, but the conscious act of using some structure to guide your thinking when faced with a task that warrants it. Try this. Think back to the area of overwhelm you identified in the introduction. Now consider, is your current approach mostly reactive? Or do you already use some kind of structure, even a simple one? For example, if your overwhelm is email, is your approach just opening whatever is newest reactive? Or do you have a system like checking only twice a day? Or sorting into folders a simple framework? Just noticing your current pattern is insightful. Chapter 2. The Power of Frameworks. Benefits explored. We've established what frameworks are, structured tools for thinking. But why should you actively seek them out and practice using them? Because the benefits are profound and can ripple through every area of your life, enhancing your effectiveness, reducing your stress, and boosting your confidence. Let's delve deeper into the specific advantages we touched upon earlier. Benefit 1. Clarity in complexity. Life rarely presents itself in neat packages. Problems are often tangled messes of interconnected issues. Decisions involve multiple conflicting priorities. Information comes at us like a tidal wave. Frameworks act as powerful clarifying lenses. They help us cut through the noise, untangle the mess, and see the underlying structure. How? By forcing us to break down large, intimidating challenges into smaller, more digestible components. Remember the example of planning a big company event? The framework goal, budget, guests, venue, logistics, promotion, instantly turns a vague, overwhelming task into a series of focused questions and categories. Instead of staring at a mountain, you're looking at a series of manageable steps. This breakdown reduces cognitive load, the amount of information your brain has to juggle at once, making the situation feel less daunting and allowing you to focus on one piece at a time. This clarity is the antidote to overwhelm. Benefit 2. Smarter, faster decisions. We all want to make good choices, but decision-making can be fraught with difficulty. We might be swayed by emotions, influenced by hidden biases, like preferring information that confirms what we already believe, or simply paralyzed by too many options. Analysis paralysis. Frameworks provide a structured process for evaluation, helping us become more objective and rational. Consider again the choice between 2 job offers. A framework prompting comparison across key factors, salary, responsibilities, culture, growth, work-life balance, forces you to gather relevant data for both options and weigh them systematically. Adding scoring or weighting, as we'll discuss later, further enhances objectivity. This structured approach minimizes the impact of gut feelings or irrelevant factors. It ensures you consider multiple angles before committing. And counterintuitively, this structured process often leads to faster decisions. Why? because the framework tells you exactly what information you need and how to compare it, reducing time wasted on unfocused deliberation or going back and forth endlessly. Benefit 3, increased efficiency and focus. How much of our precious time and mental energy is squandered simply figuring out how to approach tasks, especially recurring ones? Reinventing the wheel every time is exhausting and inefficient. Frameworks, particularly for routine processes, provide a predefined, optimized path. Think again about the pilot's pre-flight checklist. It's a framework that ensures safety and efficiency. They don't waste mental energy trying to remember every single step. They follow the proven structure, freeing their minds to focus on the actual complexities of flying. Similarly, developing or adopting frameworks for tasks like writing monthly reports, managing your email inbox, for example, Inbox Zero framework, conducting interviews, or even running regular team meetings can save enormous amounts of time and cognitive resources. By standardizing the process, you reduce friction and can dedicate your focus to the content and quality of the work rather than the mechanics of how to do it. Benefit 4, better communication and collaboration. Working effectively with others requires clear communication and shared understanding. How often do misunderstandings arise because people have different assumptions or are talking about different aspects of a problem? Frameworks provide a common language and shared structure that can dramatically improve teamwork. When a team uses a project planning framework, like Agile or a simple Gantt chart, everyone understands the phases, the terminology, the roles, and the goals. Discussions become more focused and productive because everyone is looking at the same map. When you present an idea or proposal using a clear framework, for example, here's the problem, here's our proposed solution, here are the benefits, here are the next steps, your audience can follow your logic much more easily. Frameworks make your thinking visible and transparent, fostering trust and alignment within teams and groups. Benefit 5, accelerated learning and deeper understanding. In a rapidly changing world, the ability to learn new things quickly and effectively is a superpower. Frameworks act as mental scaffolding for knowledge. When you encounter new information, trying to absorb it as a collection of isolated facts is difficult. Frameworks help you organize that information, connect it to what you already know, and identify patterns. Think about learning history. Instead of just memorizing dates and names, using frameworks like cause and effect analysis, comparing different perspectives, or understanding historical periods like the Renaissance or the Industrial Revolution as conceptual frameworks, allows you to build a much richer, more connected understanding. When learning a new skill, frameworks break down the process into logical steps, making practice more systematic and progress easier to track. They turn a jumble of facts into a coherent body of knowledge. So, embracing framework thinking isn't just about being neat or methodical. It's a strategic approach to enhancing your cognitive abilities. It leads to less stress, more confidence, better outcomes, stronger relationships, and continuous growth. It's about working smarter, not just harder, in virtually every aspect of your life. Chapter 3, Meet the Mental Models. As we've been discussing frameworks, I've also occasionally used the term mental models. You might be wondering, are they the same thing? What's the distinction? Understanding this relationship will help you navigate the world of structured thinking more effectively. So let's clarify this before we dive into specific examples in the next part. Think back again to our carpenter's toolkit analogy. Framework thinking is the overall philosophy, the understanding that using the right tool for the job is crucial for good work. It's the commitment to using structured approaches. Mental models, then, are the specific individual tools within that toolkit. They are the hammers, the saws, the levels, the measuring tapes of thought. They are established, often widely recognized concepts, principles, or ways of thinking about particular types of problems, systems, or situations. A mental model is essentially a simplified representation of how something works in the real world. The world is infinitely complex, so our minds create models, simplified versions, to make sense of it. These models help us understand systems, explain phenomena, predict future outcomes, and make decisions. For example, the concept of supply and demand in economics is a classic mental model. It simplifies the incredibly complex interactions of millions of buyers and sellers into a basic relationship between the availability of a good supply and the desire for it, demand, helping us understand, predict, and influence prices. Is it perfectly accurate in every single micro situation? No, reality is messier, but it's an incredibly useful model for thinking about markets. Another example might be the Pareto principle, often called the 80-20 rule. This mental model suggests that for many events, roughly 80% of the effects come from 20%. For instance, 80% of a company's sales might come from 20% of its customers, or 80% of your results might come from 20% of your efforts. This model helps you focus your attention on the vital few factors that drive the most significant outcome. Even understanding common cognitive biases, like confirmation bias, our tendency to favor information that confirms our existing beliefs, is using a mental model. It's a model of a common flaw in human thinking that helps us recognize it in ourselves and others, and hopefully guard against it. So, how do frameworks and mental models fit together? Often a framework provides the broader structure or process, while a mental model provides the specific concept, principle, or method used within that structure. Let's revisit an earlier example. You might use a general problem-solving framework with steps like define the problem, 2, analyze the situation, 3, generate potential solutions, 4, evaluate solutions, 5, implement and monitor. This is the overall framework. When you get to step 2, analyze the situation, you might choose to apply a specific mental model like SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, or the 5 whys to guide your analysis. The overall steps are the framework. SWOT or the 5 whys are the mental models used within a specific step. Think of it like cooking. The overall recipe is the framework. Specific techniques mentioned in the recipe, like sauté the onions or fold in the egg whites, are like mental models, specific methods applied within the larger structure. Sometimes the lines can blur. A particularly powerful or comprehensive mental model might function as the entire framework itself. The Eisenhower matrix for prioritization, which we'll cover soon, is a good example. The model is the framework for sorting tasks. Don't get too hung up on the precise terminology. The crucial takeaway is that there exists a vast collection of these established reusable structures, frameworks, and concepts, mental models that wise thinkers have developed over centuries, and learning to use them can significantly upgrade your own thinking. In the next part of this audiobook, we're going to open up that mental toolkit and examine several popular, practical, and highly effective mental models in detail. These aren't just abstract theories. They are actionable tools you can add to your repertoire and start applying immediately to solve real problems, make better decisions, and learn more effectively in your daily work. Part 2, Frameworks and Models in Action. Welcome to Part 2 of our exploration into framework thinking. In the previous section, we laid the groundwork, understanding what frameworks are, those mental structures like scaffolding maps or filing systems, and why they are so incredibly beneficial for bringing clarity, improving decisions, boosting efficiency, enhancing communication, and accelerating learning. We also clarified the relationship between broad frameworks and specific mental models, the individual tools within our thinking toolkit. Now it's time to get practical. Let's open that toolkit and examine some powerful, widely used mental models that you can start applying right away to navigate the challenges of everyday life and work more effectively. We'll begin with models specifically designed for tackling problems. Chapter 4, Frameworks for Problem Solving. Problems are an unavoidable feature of life. From minor annoyances like a malfunctioning appliance to major challenges like a struggling business or a complex social issue, we are constantly faced with situations that need fixing. Often our instinct is to jump straight to solutions, especially when we feel under pressure. But this can lead to treating symptoms rather than the underlying disease. Think of it like constantly taking painkillers for a recurring headache without ever investigating why you keep getting headaches. Framework thinking provides us with tools to pause, analyze more deeply, and develop more robust, lasting solutions to find the cause of the headache, not just dull the pain. Let's explore 3 invaluable models for effective problem solving. Our first tool is a wonderfully simple yet profoundly effective technique known as developed originally within Toyota's manufacturing system to troubleshoot production line issues. Its purpose is to help you drill down past the obvious surface-level symptoms of a problem to uncover its root cause. The core idea is incredibly straightforward. When a problem occurs, you state the problem clearly and then ask the question why, repeatedly, typically about 5 times, using the answer to each question as the basis for the next why. How does this simple questioning process lead to deeper insights? Let's walk through our earlier example again. The late project, but imagine we are actually in the team meeting discussing it. Team lead. Okay, team. The Project Alpha report shows we delivered 1 week late. That's the problem we need to address. Why one? Why was the project delivered late? Developer, well, the final testing phase took much longer than we had scheduled. Team lead. Okay, testing took longer. Why two? Why did the testing phase take longer than scheduled? Tester, because we discovered a significant number of unexpected bugs right at the end, requiring extensive fixes and retesting cycles. Team lead. Lots of late bugs. Why 3? Why were there so many unexpected bugs discovered late in the process? Developer, honestly, the initial requirements document provided to us was ambiguous in several key areas. We made some assumptions that turned out to be wrong, leading to faulty implementation that wasn't caught until final testing. Team lead. Ambiguous requirements. Why 4? Why was the requirements document ambiguous? Analyst. I was pulled onto the Urgent Omega initiative halfway through writing it. I didn't have sufficient time to fully detail the specifications or get proper sign-off from all the stakeholders before development had to start. Team lead. Pulled off task without sign-off. Why 5? Why was the analyst pulled onto another task without ensuring the requirements document was complete and reviewed? Project manager. Because our current project management process lacks a mandatory stage gate requiring formal stakeholder approval of requirements before coding begins. Also, our resource allocation process doesn't always clearly prioritize based on dependencies between projects, leading to key people being shifted too early. Look how far we traveled. We started with a late project, the symptom, and ended up identifying fundamental weaknesses in the project management process and resource allocation. The root causes. If we had stopped at why 1 or 2, we might have just blamed the testers or developers. If we stopped at why 3 or 4, we might have blamed the analyst. But by persisting with why, we uncovered systemic issues that, if addressed, perhaps by implementing mandatory sign-offs or improving resource planning, could prevent similar delays in many future projects. The solution isn't just test better next time, it's improve our requirements gathering and project management processes. Tips for using the 5 whys effectively. Don't assume you need exactly 5 whys. Sometimes the root cause emerges after 3, sometimes it might take 6 or 7. Keep going until you reach a cause that seems fundamental, often related to a process, a system, or a human factor that can be addressed. Be careful not to jump to conclusions or assign blame. The goal is understanding, not finger-pointing. Focus on the process, not the person. It can also be very effective to do this exercise with a small group involved in the process, as different perspectives can enrich the answers. Write down the chain of whys and answers as you go so you can see the logic clearly. Try this. Think of a small recurring frustration or problem in your own life or work. It could be anything. Always running late in the morning, a specific task that always takes longer than expected, a miscommunication that keeps happening. Grab a piece of paper and try applying the 5 whys to it right now. Start with the problem statement and ask why 5 times, writing down your answers. See if you can uncover a deeper cause than you initially thought. Our second problem-solving framework is the widely recognized SWOT analysis. While often associated with business strategy, SWOT is an incredibly versatile tool for analyzing any situation, project, idea, or even personal choice by examining it from 4 distinct perspectives. SWOT stands for strengths. These are internal, positive attributes or resources that help you achieve your objective. What are you good at? What unique advantages do you possess? What resources, skills, knowledge, connections, assets do you have? Weaknesses. These are internal, negative attributes or limitations that hinder your progress. Where are you lacking? What disadvantages do you face? What resources are missing? Where could you improve? Opportunities. These are external factors or situations in the environment that you could potentially leverage to your advantage. What favorable trends exist? What unmet needs could you fill? What changes in technology, policy, or society could benefit you? What chances are available? Threats. These are external factors or situations in the environment that could potentially cause trouble or hinder your success. What obstacles do you face? What are your competitors doing? Are there unfavorable trends or changes on the horizon? What risks exist? The power of SWOT lies in its structure, forcing you to consider both internal factors, strengths, weaknesses, things you can often control, and external factors, opportunities, threats, things you often need to adapt to. It encourages a balanced assessment, preventing you from being overly optimistic, focusing only on strengths and opportunities, or overly pessimistic, focusing only on weaknesses and threats. Let's revisit the example of considering starting a small online business selling handmade crafts, perhaps focusing on unique knitted scarves. Strengths: exceptional knitting skill and unique patterns, access to high-quality, ethically sourced yarn supplier, strong eye for color combinations, personal passion drives quality. Weaknesses: no experience with e-commerce platforms or digital marketing, limited budget for advertising, production time per scarf is high, limits volume, difficulty determining optimal pricing. Opportunities: growing trend for sustainable and handmade fashion, potential to sell through local craft fairs or boutiques, collaborations with fashion bloggers or influencers, ability to offer custom orders. Threats: numerous competitors on platforms like Etsy, potential increase in yarn costs, difficulty gaining visibility in a crowded online market, seasonal demand fluctuations for scarves, risk of designs being copied. Laying it out this way provides a rich strategic snapshot. The next step, often called TOWS analysis, just SWOT reversed, involves thinking strategically about how to connect these quadrants. How can you use your strengths to seize opportunities? For example, use unique patterns S to target the handmade fashion trend. O. How can you use strengths to mitigate threats? For example, emphasize high quality and ethical sourcing. S. To differentiate from mass-produced competitors. How can you overcome weaknesses by leveraging opportunities? For example, learn digital marketing. W. Using free social media platforms. O. Or collaborate with a boutique O to handle sales. And how can you minimize weaknesses and avoid threats? For example, start small due to limited budget. W. To test the market before facing major competition. SWOT is fantastic for evaluating business ideas, planning projects, making career decisions, do a personal SWOT on your skills and the job market, or analyzing any situation where a strategic overview is needed. It helps turn a simple assessment into actionable strategies. Our third problem-solving framework is perhaps the most challenging, but also potentially the most revolutionary. First principles thinking, championed by thinkers like Aristotle and popularized more recently by innovators like Elon Musk, this approach involves systematically questioning every assumption you have about a problem until you are left with only the fundamental, undeniable truths, the first principles. From this bedrock of truth, you then reason upwards to find new solutions rather than simply making small improvements on existing solutions, which is called reasoning by analogy. Reasoning by analogy means looking at how things are currently done and making incremental changes. For example, if you want to make a suitcase lighter, you might look at existing suitcases and try to use slightly lighter materials or remove a pocket. That's analogy. First principles thinking, however, breaks the thing down completely. What is a suitcase fundamentally for? It's for transporting belongings from point A to point B. What are the essential properties? It needs to contain items, protect them, and be movable by a person. What are the fundamental physical constraints? Gravity, material strength, human strength, cost of materials. By starting from these basics, you might ask, does it have to be a rigid box? Could belongings be transported in a different way entirely? This kind of thinking led to innovations like wheeled luggage, addressing the movable by a person principle more efficiently, or even services that ship your luggage ahead, bypassing the need for you to carry it at all. Elon Musk famously applied this to the cost of batteries for electric cars. Instead of accepting the high market price reasoning by analogy, batteries are expensive. He asked, what are batteries made of? What are the fundamental material constituents? Nickel, cobalt, aluminum, polymers. What is the spot market price for those raw materials? He found the cost of the raw materials was vastly lower than the cost of the finished battery. The difference was in the manufacturing and supply chain inefficiencies. By reasoning up from the first principles of the materials, he could set ambitious goals to dramatically reduce battery costs by bringing manufacturing in-house and optimizing the process. How to practice first principles thinking. 1. Identify your current assumptions. What do you believe to be true about this problem or situation? Why do you believe it? Break it down. Break the problem down into its most fundamental components or truths. What are the absolute essential elements? What do you know for sure is true based on physics, basic logic, or undeniable facts? 3. Question everything. Challenge every assumption. Ask why relentlessly, like a child. Is this truly necessary? Is there another way? 4. Reconstruct from the ground up. Once you have the fundamental principles, start building your reasoning and potential solutions from that solid foundation, ignoring how things were done before. First principles thinking is hard work. It requires mental effort to fight against conventional wisdom and deeply ingrained assumptions. But it's incredibly powerful for tackling complex problems, driving innovation, and finding truly original solutions that others miss because they are stuck reasoning by analogy. So we've equipped ourselves with 3 powerful problem-solving lenses: the 5 whys for depth, SWOT analysis for breadth and strategy, and first principles thinking for fundamental truths and innovation. Each offers a different angle, helping us move beyond reactive fixes towards more insightful and effective solutions. Next, let's turn our attention to frameworks specifically designed to help us navigate the often tricky process of making decisions. Part 2. Frameworks and Models in Action. Chapter 5. Frameworks for Decision-Making. We make countless decisions every single day, from the trivial, what should I have for breakfast, to the life-altering, should I accept this job offer? Should I move to a new city? While some decisions are easy, others can leave us feeling stressed, uncertain, or paralyzed. How can we navigate these choices more effectively, ensuring we make decisions that align with our goals and values, especially when faced with pressure, limited information, or conflicting options? This is where decision-making frameworks come into play, providing structure, clarity, and objectivity. Let's explore 3 incredibly useful models to add to your mental toolkit. Our first model tackles a universal challenge: prioritization. In a world demanding our attention from countless directions, deciding what to focus on first is a critical decision we make constantly. A fantastic and enduring tool for this is the Eisenhower Matrix, famously attributed to Dwight D. Eisenhower, the 34th President of the United States, and a 5-star general who managed incredibly complex operations. He reportedly said, "I have 2 kinds of problems, the urgent and the important. The urgent are not important, and the important are never urgent." This insight forms the basis of the Matrix. This framework helps you categorize your tasks, commitments, and even incoming requests based on 2 simple but powerful dimensions. Urgency: how soon does this require attention? Is there an immediate deadline? And importance: how much does this contribute to my core goals, values, or long-term objectives? The Matrix visually divides your tasks into 4 quadrants or boxes. Quadrant 1, urgent and important. The quadrant of necessity, do first. These are the tasks that demand immediate attention and are critical for achieving your significant goals. Think crises: a major system outage, pressing problems, an angry key customer, projects with imminent deadlines, report due tomorrow morning, tasks with major consequences if not done now. The clear advice here is, do these tasks immediately and personally. Manage them carefully, but try not to live entirely in this quadrant, as it often leads to burnout and stress. If your Q1 is constantly full, it might be a sign you aren't spending enough time in Q. Quadrant 2. Important, but not urgent. The quadrant of quality and leadership schedule. This is arguably the most crucial quadrant for long-term success and well-being, yet it's often neglected because the tasks don't shout for immediate attention. These activities are highly important for achieving your goals, but don't have a pressing deadline yet. Examples include strategic planning, thinking about next year's goals, building relationships, having coffee with a key colleague, learning new skills, taking an online course, exercise, preventative maintenance, getting the car serviced before it breaks down, creating systems documenting a process, and proactive work, researching new opportunities. The advice is, decide and schedule. Proactively block out time in your calendar to work on these high-leverage activities before they become urgent crises. This is where real progress happens. Quadrant 3. Urgent but not important. The quadrant of deception, delegate or minimize. These tasks clamor for your attention now, but they don't actually contribute much to your important goals. They often serve other people's priorities or are simply interruptions that feel urgent but aren't truly important to you. Examples include many emails, especially CCs or FYI messages, some phone calls, unnecessary meetings or parts of meetings, minor requests from colleagues that don't align with your core responsibilities, interruptions from notification. This quadrant is deceptive because the urgency creates a false sense of importance. The advice is, delegate whenever possible. Can someone else handle this? If not, can you minimize the time spent? Can you automate it? Can you politely say no or set boundaries? For example, I can look at that next week. The goal is to spend as little time here as possible, freeing up time. Quadrant 4. Not urgent and not important. The quadrant of waste, delete. These activities contribute nothing to your goals and have no deadline. They are essentially time wasters and distractions. Examples include excessive mindless social media browsing, watching pointless videos, engaging in gossip, sorting through junk mail, or performing trivial tasks that add no real value. The advice is simple: delete or eliminate. Be ruthless in identifying and minimizing time spent in this quadrant. Ask yourself, does this really need to be done at all? Often the answer is no. How to use the Eisenhower matrix in practice. Start by listing all the tasks currently demanding your attention. Everything on your to-do list, in your inbox, in your head. Then honestly assess each task against the criteria of urgency and importance, placing it into one of the 4 quadrants. A simple way is to draw the 4 boxes on paper. This visual sorting immediately provides clarity. You see what must be done now. Q1, what should be scheduled. Q2, what should be delegated or minimized. Q3, and what should be dropped. Q4. Regularly reviewing your task list through this lens, perhaps daily or weekly, helps you stay focused on high-impact activities, especially Q2, and avoid getting constantly bogged down in urgency. A personal story. My friend Lisa, a freelance designer, felt constantly overwhelmed. She used the matrix for a week. She was shocked to find how much time she spent in Q3, responding instantly to minor client emails, urgent but often not important for her core design work, and getting pulled into non-essential admin tasks. She realized she was neglecting Q2 activities like updating her portfolio and learning new software. By consciously scheduling Q2 time first and setting boundaries on Q3 requests, like checking email only twice a day, she dramatically reduced her stress and started making real progress on her business goal. Common pitfalls. The biggest challenge is accurately assessing importance. It requires clarity about your own goals and values. Also, beware of letting Q3 tasks masquerade as Q1 tasks just because they feel urgent. Try this. Take 5 minutes right now or later today. Grab a piece of paper and draw the 4 Eisenhower matrix quadrants. List 5-10 tasks currently on your mind or to-do list. Try placing each task into one of the quadrants. Does this exercise give you any immediate insights into where your time and energy are going versus where they should be going? Our second decision-making tool takes a familiar concept, the pros and cons list, and elevates it with a structured framework thinking approach. We all instinctively weigh the good points, pros, and bad points, cons, when facing a choice. But a simple, unstructured list can be misleading. We might give too much attention to minor points, forget important factors, or let our emotional biases skew the list, for example, listing more pros for the option we secretly prefer. A structured pros and cons list adds layers of analysis to make it a more robust decision-making framework. Here's how to structure it. Clearly define the decision and options. Be specific about the choice you are evaluating, and clearly define the alternatives. For example, should I accept job offer A or job offer B? Or should we implement strategy X or strategy Y? Brainstorm pros and cons for each option. List all the potential positive outcomes, pros and negative outcomes, cons, for each option separately. Try to be comprehensive. 3. Add weighting scoring. This is the crucial step for adding objectivity. Go through each pro and con and assign it a numerical weight or score based on its importance to you or the decision criteria. Use a simple scale, perhaps 1, low importance, to 5, high importance, or 1 to 10. Why is this critical? Because not all pros and cons are created equal. A minor inconvenience, con weight 1, shouldn't cancel out a major career opportunity. Pro weight 5. Weighting forces you to quantify how much each factor matters. 4. Optional, calculate weighted scores. For a more analytical view, multiply the score of each pro-con by its weight. Then, sum the weighted scores for all pros for an option and subtract the sum of the weighted scores for all cons for that option. This gives a net weighted score for each alternative, allowing for a more direct comparison. For example, Pro A, score 4, weight 5. Optional, add categories. For very complex decisions, you might group pros and cons into relevant categories. For example, financial impact, time commitment, risk level, impact on team, personal satisfaction, before weighting them. This ensures you consider the decision from multiple critical angles and don't overlook an entire dimension. Let's apply this structured approach again to deciding whether to pursue a demanding postgraduate degree while working full-time, but this time calculating scores using a 1-5 importance weight. Option: pursue degree. Pros: enhanced career prospects, salary potential, weight 5. Deeper knowledge in field of interest, weight 4. Networking opportunities, weight 3. Score: sense of personal achievement, weight 4. Total pro score. Con: significant financial cost, tuition, books, weight. Major time commitment, less free time, weight 5. Increased stress and potential burnout, weight 4. May strain personal relationships, weight. Total con score, net score for pursuing degree, 66/75. Option: do not pursue degree now. Pros: more free time for hobbies, family, rest, weight 4. No additional financial burden, weight 5. Lower stress levels, weight 4. Can focus fully on current job performance, weight. Total pro score. Con: may miss out on career advancement opportunities, weight 4. Potential regret later, weight 3. Slower knowledge acquisition in the field, weight 3. Total con score, net score for not pursuing degree, 66/34. In this hypothetical weighted analysis, the option not to pursue the degree comes out significantly ahead, primarily due to the high negative weights assigned to cost and time commitment. Of course, your personal weights might be different. The key is that the framework forces a deliberate, personalized, and more analytical evaluation, moving beyond a simple count of pros versus cons. Our third decision-making model encourages us to look beyond the immediate horizon, second-order thinking. This powerful framework pushes us to consider not just the direct consequences of our decisions, first-order effects, but also the subsequent indirect consequences, the effects of the effects, second-order effects. and even the effects beyond that. Third order, it's about understanding the chain reactions our choices set off. Most people naturally focus on the immediate result. If I do X, then Y will happen. If I eat this delicious cake, X, I will experience immediate pleasure, Y. This is first-order thinking. It's simple, direct, and often driven by our desire for immediate gratification or avoiding immediate pain. Second-order thinking introduces the crucial question, and then what? What happens after the initial consequence? If I eat this cake, X, I experience pleasure, Y, and then what? The second-order consequences might include feeling guilty later, consuming excess calories that hinder health goals, reinforcing a habit of emotional eating, feeling sluggish afterwards, maybe needing to buy bigger clothes if this becomes a habit. Third order, considering these downstream effects paints a much fuller picture of the decision's true impact. Why is second-order thinking so important, yet often neglected? Because immediate consequences are easier to see and feel, while longer-term effects are often delayed, less certain, and require more cognitive effort to anticipate. Our brains are often wired for short-term thinking. Think about the famous marshmallow test with children. The struggle between immediate gratification, one marshmallow now and delayed, larger reward, two marshmallows later, highlights this inherent tension. Consider a business decision. A company decides to implement a new complex software system to improve efficiency, first-order effect, potential for long-term efficiency gains. And then what? Second-order effects might include significant upfront cost and disruption during implementation, employee resistance and need for extensive training, potential for initial dip in productivity as people learn the new system, need for ongoing IT support and maintenance. And then what? Third order. If successful, improved data analysis leads to better strategic decisions. If unsuccessful, wasted investment and damaged morale. Thinking through these layers helps anticipate challenges and plan accordingly. Think about a personal decision. Deciding to regularly skip breakfast to save time in the morning, first-order effect, 15 extra minutes of sleep or less rush. And then what? Second-order effects, feeling hungry and less focused by mid-morning, potentially overeating at lunch, lower overall energy levels affecting productivity, missing out on important nutrients. And then what? Third order, potential long-term negative impacts on metabolism or weight management, establishing a poor dietary habit. How to practice second-order thinking. When facing a significant decision, consciously ask yourself, and perhaps others involved, what are the immediate consequences, positive and negative? And then what happens because of those consequences? And then what happens because of those consequences? What could be the unintended side effects? How might this play out over different time horizons, 1 month, 6 months, 1 year, 5 years? Playing out these chains of effects helps reveal hidden risks and opportunities. Second-order thinking is essential for strategic planning, policymaking, investment decisions, health choices, environmental considerations, and any situation where the long-term repercussions are significant. It helps us avoid solutions that cause bigger problems down the road and make choices that are more sustainable and beneficial over time. It's about playing the long game. These three models, the Eisenhower matrix for effective prioritization, the structured pros and cons list for balanced evaluation, and second-order thinking for anticipating long-term consequences, provide robust frameworks to significantly improve the quality and thoughtfulness of your decisions. By consciously applying these structures, you can move from reactive choices to deliberate, strategic decision-making. Next up, let's explore frameworks specifically designed to enhance how we learn and understand new information. Part 2, Frameworks and Models in Action. Chapter 6, Frameworks for Learning and Understanding. We've explored how frameworks can sharpen our problem-solving skills and guide us towards better decisions. But the power of structured thinking extends deeply into another crucial area of modern life, learning and understanding. In a world overflowing with information and demanding continuous adaptation, the ability to learn new concepts quickly, deeply, and effectively is no longer just an academic skill. It's essential for personal growth and professional success. Let's examine 2 powerful frameworks specifically designed to enhance your comprehension and knowledge retention. Our first learning framework is the Feynman technique, named after the Nobel Prize-winning physicist Richard Feynman. Feynman wasn't just a brilliant scientist, he was renowned for his extraordinary ability to explain incredibly complex ideas like quantum physics in remarkably simple and intuitive terms. He famously said, "If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough." The technique that bears his name is a direct reflection of this philosophy. It's a framework for testing and deepening your own understanding by attempting to explain a concept in the simplest possible way. Think of it as an active learning strategy, the opposite of passively reading or highlighting text. It forces you to engage with the material deeply, identify your blind spots, and solidify your knowledge. Here are the 4 core steps. Elaborated. Choose your concept and study it. First, identify the specific topic or concept you want to truly understand. This could be anything: a scientific theory like natural selection, a historical event like the fall of the Roman Empire, a mathematical formula, a business concept like compound interest, a philosophical idea like Stoicism, even a complex process at work like the new software rollout. Then, study the concept using your preferred resources: books, articles, videos, lectures. Gather the information as you normally would, taking initial notes. 2. Teach it to a child or a novice. This is the heart of the technique. Take a blank piece of paper or a new document and write the name of the concept at the top. Now imagine you have to explain this concept to someone who has absolutely no prior knowledge of the subject. Perhaps a bright 10-year-old child, or simply an intelligent adult who is completely unfamiliar with the field. Write down your explanation using only simple language, basic terms, and clear analogies or examples. Avoid any jargon, complex vocabulary, or technical terms specific to the field. If you find yourself using a complicated word, challenge yourself. Can I say this more simply? Why this step works. Forcing yourself to translate complex ideas into simple language immediately reveals where your own understanding is fuzzy, incomplete, or overly reliant on jargon you haven't fully unpacked. 3. Identify gaps, errors, and oversimplifications. Now, carefully review your written explanation. Read it critically. Where did you get stuck while writing? Where does your explanation become confusing, convoluted, or jumpy? Where did you find yourself resorting to the technical terms you were trying to avoid because you couldn't find a simpler way? Where does it feel like something is missing, or perhaps even slightly inaccurate, when simplified? Be brutally honest with yourself. These sticking points are gold. They pinpoint the exact areas where your understanding is weak. Now go back to your source material specifically to fill these identified gaps. Study those parts again until you can explain them simply and accurately. 4. Review, refine, and simplify further. Once you've filled the gaps, rewrite your explanation, incorporating your new understanding. Read it aloud. Does it flow logically? Is it clear? Is it truly simple? Could it be simpler still? Can you create a better analogy? Sometimes, organizing the points differently or adding a simple diagram can help. Keep refining until you have a clear, simple, accurate, and ideally concise explanation that even a novice could grasp. Optional but powerful, actually try explaining it to someone else and see what questions they ask. This is invaluable feedback. A personal story: I once used this technique trying to understand blockchain technology. My first attempt at explaining it was full of terms like distributed ledger, cryptographic hash, and consensus mechanism. When I tried to simplify it for a child, I realized I couldn't clearly explain why these things were necessary or how they connected. I had to go back and research the fundamental problems blockchain was trying to solve, like trust in digital transactions, before I could create a simple analogy like a shared, unchangeable notebook that everyone can see. The process was challenging but incredibly effective. Try this. Think of a concept you've learned recently, perhaps for work or a hobby, but maybe don't feel 100% confident explaining. Take 10 minutes later today. Grab a piece of paper, write the concept at the top, and try to explain it in the simplest terms possible, as if to a complete beginner. Notice where you struggle, or use jargon. This quick exercise will immediately highlight areas for deeper understanding. Our second learning framework shifts from verbal explanation to visual organization. Mind mapping. Developed and popularized by Tony Buzan, mind mapping is a powerful visual thinking tool that helps you capture, organize, and explore information in a way that aligns more naturally with how your brain works, through association and connection, rather than just linear lists. Instead of traditional note-taking, writing lines of text down a page, a mind map starts with a central idea and radiates outwards with branches representing related concepts and details. It creates a visual landscape of your topic, allowing you to see the structure and relationships at a glance. Here's a more detailed guide on how to create an effective mind map. Start in the center. Take a blank page. Landscape orientation often works best. Or use mind mapping software. Write your main topic or central idea clearly in the middle and draw a circle, or even better, a relevant image around it. This is your focal point. 2. Add main branches. First level. Draw thick, curved branches radiating outwards from the central topic. Each main branch represents a primary theme or key subtopic directly related to the central idea. Label each branch with a single strong keyword or a very short phrase. Using different colors for each main branch helps visually distinguish the major themes and aids memory. 3. Add sub-branches. Second and subsequent levels. From the end of each main branch, draw thinner sub-branches representing supporting details, examples, or further breakdowns of that theme. Continue adding branches as needed, moving from the general main branches to the specific outer branches. Maintain the hierarchy. Ideas further out are more specific details related to the branch they connect to. Use keywords, not sentences. This is crucial for clarity and recall. Keep the text on each branch as brief as possible, ideally a single keyword or a very short phrase. This forces you to condense information and makes the map easier to scan and remember later. Embrace color and images. Use color consistently and meaningfully, perhaps one color per main theme and its sub-branches. Add small, simple drawings or symbols, icons, images, next to keywords where appropriate. Visual elements significantly enhance memory, engagement, and understanding by engaging more of your brain. 6. Use curved lines and vary thickness. Buzan recommended using curved organic lines rather than straight ones, believing it's more visually stimulating and natural for the brain. Varying line thickness, thicker for main branches, thinner for sub-branches, also helps emphasize the structure. Let's revisit the example of preparing a presentation on healthy eating, making it more visual. Center. Healthy eating. Inside a drawing of a colorful plate with a fork and knife. Main branch 1. Thick blue curve. Macronutrients. Sub-branch. Blue. Proteins. Keyword Paul, small drawing of a chicken leg bean. Sub-branch. Blue. Carbohydrates. Keyword pie, small drawing of bread rice. Sub-branch. Blue. Fats. Keyword pie, small drawing of an avocado nut. Main branch 2. Thick green curve. Micronutrients. Sub-branch. Green. Vitamins. Keyword pie, small drawing of an orange for vit C. Sub-branch. Green. Minerals. Keyword pie, small drawing of a milk carton for calcium. Main branch 3. Thick red curve. Key habits. Sub-branch. Red. Hydration. Keyword high, small drawing of a water glass. Sub-branch. Red. Portion control. Keyword drawing of smaller plate. Sub-branch. Red. Mindful eating. Keyword drawing of a person thinking about food. Main branch 4. Thick orange curve. Benefits. Sub-branch. Orange. Energy. Keyword tour drawing of a lightning bolt. Sub-branch. Orange. Weight MGT. Keyword drawing of a scale. Sub-branch. Orange. Disease prev. Keyword Troy, drawing of a shield. Mind mapping is incredibly versatile. You can use it for brainstorming. Quickly capture and connect ideas without worrying about structure initially. Great for creative sessions. Note-taking. Summarize lectures, meetings, or books in a visually engaging and memorable format. Planning. outline essays, presentations, projects, or even holidays, seeing all components at once. Studying, organize complex information for exams, clearly showing relationships between concepts. Problem solving, visually explore different facets of a problem, potential causes, and possible solutions. Digital versus hand-drawn. Many excellent mind mapping software tools exist, like Miro, MindMeister, XMind, offering flexibility, easy editing, and collaboration features. However, the physical act of drawing a mind map by hand, engaging motor skills, choosing colors, drawing icons, can sometimes enhance memory and creative thinking even further. Experiment to see which works best for you. So we have the Feynman technique, a powerful tool for achieving deep, true understanding by forcing simplification and identifying knowledge gaps. And we have mind mapping, a versatile visual framework for organizing information, brainstorming ideas, and seeing the bigger picture through connections and associations. Both are invaluable additions to your learning toolkit, helping you navigate the complexities of information more effectively and turn passive consumption into active understanding. We've now journeyed through several practical frameworks and mental models covering problem-solving, decision-making. These examples, the 5 whys, SWOT, first principles, Eisenhower matrix, structured pros and cons, second-order thinking, Feynman technique, and mind mapping, represent just a fraction of the tools available. The goal, remember, isn't to become a collector of models, but to understand the value of structured thinking and to begin consciously practicing with a few tools that resonate with you and address your specific needs. In our final section, we'll focus on how you can cultivate this practice, build your personalized mental toolkit, and truly integrate framework thinking into your everyday life. Part 3. Becoming a framework thinker. Welcome to Part 3 of our journey into framework thinking. In the previous sections, we explored the fundamental concepts, the what and why of using structured approaches, and we delved into a practical toolkit of mental models for problem-solving, decision-making, and learning. You've encountered powerful tools like the 5 whys, SWOT analysis, the Eisenhower matrix, second-order thinking, and the Feynman technique. You now possess a solid understanding of how these tools can function to bring clarity, enhance judgment, and deepen comprehension. But, as we know, simply knowing about a tool is quite different from being skilled in using it. Owning a state-of-the-art kitchen doesn't automatically make you a great chef. You need to practice cooking, learn techniques, understand ingredients. Similarly, knowing about mental models doesn't automatically make you an effective framework thinker. The crucial next step is bridging the gap between knowledge and application. So how do you transition from merely understanding framework thinking to actively becoming a framework thinker? How do you consciously build your own personalized mental toolkit and weave these powerful approaches into the very fabric of your daily thinking and actions? That's precisely what we'll explore in this section. Chapter 7. Building your mental toolkit. First, and this is truly important to internalize, becoming proficient in framework thinking is a journey, not a destination. It's not like flipping a switch. It's more like developing a muscle or learning a musical instrument. It's a skill, and like any valuable skill, it develops gradually over time through conscious effort, deliberate practice, and reflection. Don't expect to become a master strategist or decision-maker overnight after listening to this audiobook. Be patient and kind to yourself. Celebrate small wins, like successfully using the Eisenhower matrix for 1 week, or applying the 5 whys to understand one recurring problem. Focus on consistent, incremental improvement rather than instant perfection. The goal is progress, not immediate mastery. Remember Sarah, the overwhelmed marketing manager from our introduction? Her journey started small, just trying to apply one framework to her weekly planning. It took time, but gradually, it made a huge difference. So, where do you actually find these frameworks and mental models to populate your growing toolkit? You've already been introduced to a solid starting set right here, but the world is rich with structured thinking tools developed across countless disciplines. Here are a few avenues to explore. Books. Look for titles specifically on mental models, like Shane Parrish's The Great Mental Models series, or in fields known for structured thinking, business strategy. For example, books by Michael Porter, Jim Collins, or Clayton Christensen. Psychology, especially cognitive psychology, and behavioral economics, like works by Daniel Kahneman, Amos Tversky, or Carol Dweck, decision-making sciences, systems thinking, Peter Senge, and even philosophy, logic, ethics frameworks. Often authors will explicitly outline frameworks or models they use or advocate. Articles in reputable websites, publications like Harvard Business Review, MIT Sloan Management Review, or quality newspapers often discuss decision-making frameworks in business contexts. Blogs like Farnham Street, fs.blog, Less Wrong, or specific expert blogs often delve into mental models. Look for articles that break down complex problems or explain successful strategies. Often, an underlying framework is at play. Observe others. Pay close attention to people you admire for their clear thinking, effective problem-solving, or wise decisions. How do they approach challenges? How do they structure their arguments or plans? Listen to the questions they ask. Sometimes they might explicitly mention a model, let's do a quick SWOT on this, or what are the first principles here. But often you need to infer the structure from their process. Don't be afraid to ask them about their thinking process, if appropriate. I noticed you handled that complex situation very calmly. How did you think through it? Formal learning, courses or workshops on critical thinking, project management, which is full of frameworks like Agile, Scrum, Waterfall, strategic planning, data analysis, or specific professional disciplines, often explicitly teach relevant frameworks. Reflect on your own successes and failures. Think about times you successfully navigated a complex situation. What structure did you implicitly use? Can you make that implicit process explicit and potentially reusable? Conversely, when did a decision go wrong? Could applying a specific framework have helped? Analyzing past experiences through the lens of frameworks is a powerful learning tool. However, a word of caution: simply collecting frameworks isn't the goal. It's easy to fall into the trap of reading about dozens of models, feeling intellectually stimulated, bookmarking articles, buying books, but never actually applying them. This is like collecting cookbooks but never cooking, or hoarding gym equipment but never exercising. True value comes not from the number of models you know, but from your ability to learn, internalize, and skillfully apply a select few that are relevant to your life and work. What does it mean to internalize a framework? It goes far beyond just memorizing the steps or the name. It means truly understanding the underlying principle, the why behind the framework. Why does the 5 whys work? Because it pushes past symptoms to causes by exploring the chain of causality. Why is the Eisenhower matrix effective? Because it forces a distinction between urgency, time pressure, and true importance impact on goals. Why does second-order thinking matter? Because actions have consequences beyond the immediate. When you grasp the core principle, the framework becomes more than just a rigid procedure. It becomes a flexible lens through which you can view the world. You can adapt it, combine it with other ideas, and apply it more intuitively and effectively across a wider range of situations. Internalization feels like the framework has become part of your natural thinking process, not just an external tool you occasionally pick up. Given this, my strongest advice is to start small and focus on depth over breadth. Don't try to learn and implement 10 new frameworks simultaneously. That's a recipe for overwhelm and failure. Instead, review the models we've discussed in this audiobook. Which one or two particularly resonated with you? Which ones seem most immediately applicable to the types of challenges or decisions you regularly face? Perhaps it's the Eisenhower matrix to finally get control of your workload. Maybe it's the 5 whys to understand that recurring issue in your team. Or perhaps the Feynman technique to help you truly grasp that complex topic you need to learn for your job. Choose just one or two. Then for the next few weeks, make a conscious, deliberate effort to practice only those selected frameworks. Actively look for opportunities to apply them. When a relevant situation arises, a complex task list, a recurring problem, a new concept to learn, pause and intentionally walk through the steps of the chosen model. Afterwards, take a moment to reflect. How did it go? Did it provide clarity? Did it lead to a better outcome or deeper understanding? What was difficult about using it? Did I skip a step? Did I rush it? Keeping a simple journal of these practice attempts, just a few lines each time, can be incredibly helpful for solidifying your learning, tracking your progress, and identifying areas for improvement. Now let's address a common pitfall, the danger of overcomplication, sometimes called the man with a hammer syndrome. If your only tool is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. Sometimes in our enthusiasm for these new tools, we can be tempted to use complex frameworks for simple problems, or to rigidly adhere to every single step even when it's not necessary. Remember, the primary goal of framework thinking is often to simplify complexity, to bring clarity and order, not to add unnecessary layers of bureaucracy to your thinking. Always ask, what is the simplest structure that can effectively address this situation? Often a basic checklist, a simple pros and cons list, perhaps with weighting, or even just asking a few clarifying questions, what's the real goal here? What are the key factors? Is sufficient. Don't feel pressured to use a sophisticated model just because you know it. The elegance of framework thinking often lies in applying the right level of structure, no more, no less. Furthermore, recognize that frameworks are not mutually exclusive. They can often be connected and used together synergistically. You might use mind mapping to brainstorm aspects of a problem, then use SWOT analysis to categorize those points strategically. Perhaps use the 5 whys to dig deeper into a key weakness identified in the SWOT, and finally use the Eisenhower matrix to prioritize actions based on your analysis. Learning how different models can complement each other adds another layer of sophistication to your toolkit. Think of it like a chef combining different cooking techniques within one recipe. Ultimately, building your mental toolkit is about quality over quantity, and about creating a personalized set of tools that work for you and the types of challenges you face. It's far better to deeply understand and regularly use a handful of versatile, high-impact frameworks than to have a superficial acquaintance with dozens. Focus on deliberate practice. Strive for genuine understanding of the core principles. Be patient with the learning process and reflect on your experiences. Your toolkit will grow and evolve over time as you gain experience and encounter new challenges. Try this. Reflect for a moment. Based on the frameworks we've discussed, 5 whys, SWOT, first principles, Eisenhower matrix, pros, cons, second-order thinking, Feynman technique, mind mapping, which one seems most immediately useful or interesting for you to practice in the coming week? Write it down. Now, think of one specific situation this week where you could potentially apply it. Commit to trying it out just once in that situation and briefly reflecting on the experience afterward. Part 3. Becoming a framework thinker. Chapter 8. Applying frameworks in everyday life. We've discussed building your mental toolkit by selecting, internalizing, and practicing a few key frameworks. But how do you move from occasional practice sessions to seamlessly integrating framework thinking into the flow of your everyday life? How does it become less of a conscious exercise and more of a natural habit, an intuitive way of approaching the world? This chapter focuses on bridging that gap, applying these powerful tools consistently in real-world situations, both at work and in your personal life. The absolute key is transforming conscious practice into ingrained habit. Habits, as we know, are behaviors performed almost automatically, requiring little conscious thought. Reaching that stage with framework thinking takes time and deliberate effort initially. The core strategy is to consciously look for opportunities to practice, especially in the beginning. At first, this might feel a bit artificial or slow. You might need to literally pause when faced with a challenge or decision and ask yourself, okay, hold on. Before I react, is there a framework from my toolkit that could help structure my thinking here? For instance, feeling overwhelmed by your overflowing email inbox? Pause. Think, could the Eisenhower matrix help me prioritize which emails really need a response now, which can wait, and which can be deleted? Facing that same frustrating technical glitch for the 3rd time this month? Pause. Think, instead of just fixing the symptom again, maybe I should apply the 5 whys to figure out the real root cause. Need to make a decision between 2 potential holiday destinations? Pause. Think, let me set up a structured pros and cons list with weighting based on what matters most to me. Relaxation, cost, activities. Trying to explain a complex idea to a colleague? Pause. Think, am I explaining this simply enough? Let me try the Feynman technique in my head. How would I explain this to someone completely new to the topic? This conscious pausing and questioning is the trigger that starts building the habit. It interrupts your default reactive mode and inserts a moment of structured thought. A personal story. My friend Miguel, a software developer, struggled with constant interruptions at work. He felt perpetually behind and stressed. After learning about framework thinking, he decided to try the Eisenhower matrix for just 1 week. At first, it felt awkward and time-consuming to categorize each request or task. He kept a small notepad with 4 quadrants drawn on it and forced himself to place each new task in the appropriate box before responding. By day 3, he noticed something interesting. He was automatically starting to mentally categorize incoming requests as they arrived. Is this truly urgent and important? Became his internal filter. By the end of the week, he had declined or delegated several non-important tasks, scheduled focused time for important but not urgent work, and felt significantly more in control. What started as a conscious exercise was becoming an intuitive mental habit. Let's explore some more concrete examples of where you can weave framework thinking into the fabric of your daily routines. Applying frameworks at work. The professional environment is ripe with opportunities to benefit from structured thinking. Structuring communications. We mentioned emails, but extend this. Planning a presentation. Use a framework like introduction, problem, solution, benefits, call to action. Writing a report. Use a standard structure like executive summary, background analysis, recommendations, conclusion. This clarity benefits both you and your audience. When I worked in consulting, we used a framework called pyramid principle for all communications. Start with the main point, then support with key arguments, then details. It dramatically improved how quickly clients could understand our recommendation. Running effective meetings. Don't just show up. Use an agenda framework consistently. Clear objective. Why are we meeting? Key topics. What needs discussion, decision? Time allocation keeps things on track. Required preparation ensures attendees are ready. Desired outcomes. What does success look like? After the meeting, use a framework for action items. What, who, when, with clear accountability. A team I worked with reduced their meeting time by 40% after implementing this simple structure. Constructive feedback. Giving or receiving feedback can be difficult. Frameworks like SBI, Situation Behavior Impact, provide a neutral structure. In the situation, for example, yesterday's client meeting, when you behavior, for example, interrupted the client several times, the impact, for example, client seemed frustrated, and we didn't fully hear their concerns. This is far more effective than vague criticism like you're too aggressive in meetings or you need to be a better listener. Problem-solving meetings. Instead of unstructured brainstorming that goes nowhere, use a framework. Start with the 5 whys or a fishbone diagram, a Shikawa to analyze root causes. Then perhaps use a brainstorming framework like Scamper, substitute, combine, adapt, modify, put to another use, eliminate, reverse, to generate potential solutions systematically. One product team I know used Scamper to completely reimagine a stagnant product line, leading to their most successful launch in years. Performance reviews. Structure the conversation using a framework that covers key accomplishments, using STAR method, situation, task, action, result, areas for development with specific examples, goals for next period using SMART criteria, and required support resources. This transforms potentially awkward conversations into productive planning sessions. Strategic planning. Frameworks are essential here. SWOT analysis for initial assessment, Porter's 5 forces for industry analysis, Anzoff matrix for growth strategies, balanced scorecard for measuring progress across different dimensions. These tools help ensure you're considering all critical aspects of strategy, not just the obvious ones. Applying frameworks in personal life. Framework thinking isn't just for the office. It can bring clarity and effectiveness to many aspects of your personal life too. Financial planning. Go beyond simple budgeting. Use frameworks to set financial goals. SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. Analyze investment options using risk-reward frameworks. Plan for retirement using structured calculators or models. The 50-30-20 framework: 50% needs, 30% wants, 20% savings, is a simple but effective starting point for many people. Planning personal projects, renovating a room, use a project management framework. Define scope, list tasks, estimate time cost, sequence tasks, assign resources, even if it's just you. Track progress. Planning a big family trip? Use a mind map for brainstorming destinations and activities. Then a timeline or checklist for booking flights, accommodation, visas, etc. My neighbor used a simple Gantt chart for her kitchen renovation, and it was the first home improvement project that didn't cause major family stress. Learning and hobbies. We discussed the Feynman technique and mind mapping. Also, consider structured practice frameworks for skills like music, for example, deliberate practice focusing on specific weak areas, or sports. Use frameworks to break down complex skills into smaller, learnable components. A friend learning guitar made much faster progress when she stopped just playing and started using a structured practice routine. 10 minutes scales, 15 minutes chord transitions, 20 minutes working on a specific difficult passage, 15 minutes playing for enjoyment. Health and fitness. Set health goals using the SMART framework. Track progress using simple logs or apps, a data collection framework. Evaluate different diets or exercise programs using a structured pros and cons list, considering factors like sustainability, cost, enjoyment, and scientific evidence. Use second-order thinking. What are the long-term impacts of this health choice? The simple framework of move more, eat mostly plants, sleep enough has helped many people cut through the complexity of health advice. Relationship communication. When facing disagreements, try using a framework for nonviolent communication. Observe the specific behavior without judgment. State your feeling. Identify the underlying need and make a clear request. For example, when you're on your phone during dinner, observation, I feel disconnected. Feeling, because I need quality time together. Need, would you be willing to have phone-free meals? Request. This structure helps prevent defensive reactions and focuses on solutions. Making major life decisions. Buying a house? Use a weighted decision matrix comparing properties based on location, price, size, condition, commute, schools, etc. Choosing a university course? Use SWOT analysis on yourself and research potential career paths, opportunities, threats. A couple I know avoided a potentially disastrous house purchase by using a structured evaluation that revealed hidden issues their emotional reaction had overlooked. Try this. Think about one recurring situation in your life that often feels chaotic or stressful. Perhaps it's weekly meal planning, managing your inbox, or family morning routines. Choose just one simple framework that might help bring structure to this situation. It could be as simple as a checklist, a 2x2 grid for prioritization, or a weekly template. Commit to trying this structure for just 1 week and notice if it reduces stress or improves outcome. Now, what happens when you try applying a framework and it just doesn't feel right? Maybe it seems too cumbersome, or it doesn't quite fit the nuances of the situation, or it doesn't lead to a clear answer. This is a perfectly normal and important part of the learning process. Remember, frameworks are tools, not rigid cages. They are meant to serve you, not the other way around. If a framework isn't working, check your understanding. Are you sure you're applying the steps correctly? Briefly revisit the definition or instructions for the framework. Sometimes a small misunderstanding can make a big difference in effectiveness. Adapt and modify. Is the framework almost right but needs tweaking? Feel free to adapt it. Maybe you only need 3 whys instead of 5. Maybe you need different categories in your SWOT analysis. Perhaps the Eisenhower matrix needs a 5th category for delegate but follow up in your specific work environment. Customize the tool to fit the specific job. The best craftspeople always adjust their tools. Try a different framework. Perhaps you simply chose the wrong tool for the task. Is there another model in your toolkit that might be a better fit? Maybe a simple checklist is better than a complex matrix for this particular task. Or perhaps a visual mind map would work better than a linear pros-cons list for your creative thinking style. 4. Recognize when no framework is needed. Crucially, framework thinking also involves knowing when not to use a formal framework. For simple routine decisions, or situations requiring immediate intuition or creative spontaneity, Forcing a rigid structure can be counterproductive. Sometimes a quick conversation, trusting your gut feeling, especially if based on deep experience, or simply taking action is the right approach. The goal isn't to analyze everything to death, but to use structure consciously and selectively when it adds genuine value, bringing clarity, objectivity, or thoroughness that might otherwise be lacking. A common misconception is that structured thinking stifles creativity. In reality, the opposite is often true. By using frameworks to handle the routine, analytical, or organizational aspects of a task, you free up valuable mental bandwidth for higher-level thinking, creativity, and intuition. When you're not bogged down trying to remember basic steps or organize scattered thoughts, your mind is liberated to make novel connections, generate original ideas, and focus on the truly innovative aspects of the challenge. Think about great artists. They often have highly structured practices and routines that support their creativity. Famous writers frequently follow strict daily writing schedules. Musicians practice scales and technical exercises religiously. These structures don't limit their creativity. They enable it by building foundational skills and creating space for innovation. Similarly, frameworks provide the solid ground from which creative leaps can be made. Consider a creative team brainstorming session. Without structure, these often devolve into either chaotic, unfocused discussions or sessions dominated by the loudest voices. With a simple framework, perhaps starting with individual idea generation, then structured sharing, then building on each other's ideas, the session becomes more productive and more creative, with diverse perspectives included and ideas more fully developed. The ultimate goal is to achieve flexible, structured thinking. It's the ability to recognize when a situation could benefit from a structured approach, select an appropriate tool from your mental toolkit, or adapt one, or combine several, apply it effectively, and then interpret the results wisely, knowing also when to rely on intuition or creativity. It's about having more options in how you approach the world. So the path forward is clear. Practice is paramount. Look for those small, everyday opportunities to consciously apply a framework you're learning. Don't wait for the perfect, complex problem. Try using the Eisenhower matrix on your weekend chores. Try the 5 whys on a minor annoyance. Try mind mapping your next grocery list or vacation plan. After each attempt, take just a minute to reflect. How did it go? Was it helpful? What felt awkward? What would you do differently next time? This cycle of practice, but reflect, adjust, is the engine of skill development. Over time, with consistent practice and reflection, these conscious choices will become more automatic. You'll start seeing situations through the lens of potential frameworks without even thinking about it. Your mental toolkit will become a trusted, readily accessible resource, empowering you to navigate challenges and opportunities with greater clarity, confidence, and effectiveness. And that's the true power of framework thinking, not just knowing about these tools, but having them become a natural extension of how you think, decide, and act in the world. Part 4, Conclusion. And so, we arrive at the conclusion of our shared exploration into the practical and powerful world of framework thinking. Over the past couple of hours, we've journeyed together from acknowledging that common feeling of being overwhelmed by the complexities and demands of modern life, to discovering a structured, effective way to navigate those challenges with greater clarity, confidence, and purpose. We began by defining framework thinking not as some rigid, academic exercise, but as a vital mental toolkit, a collection of structured approaches, like recipes, maps, or scaffolding, designed to help us organize our thoughts, simplify complexity, and approach problems and decisions more systematically and effectively. We established that this isn't about limiting creativity, but rather about providing a solid foundation upon which creativity and insight can flourish. We then delved into the significant benefits that cultivating this way of thinking can bring into our lives. We saw how frameworks empower us to gain profound clarity amidst confusion, enabling us to break down daunting tasks into manageable pieces. We learned how they lead to smarter, faster, and more objective decisions by providing structure for evaluation and minimizing the sway of bias or emotion. We explored how adopting frameworks increases our efficiency and focus, saving precious time and mental energy by standardizing routine processes. We recognized how frameworks foster better communication and collaboration by providing a shared language and structure for teams and groups. And we discovered how they can accelerate our learning and lead to deeper understanding by helping us organize and connect new information effectively. Armed with this understanding, we opened the mental toolkit itself and examined a selection of practical, versatile mental models, specific tools ready for application. The 5 Whys, our detective tool for drilling down past surface symptoms to uncover the true root causes of problems. Remember our example of the late project delivery, where we discovered that the real issue wasn't poor testing or development, but fundamental weaknesses in the requirements process and resource allocation. SWOT analysis, the strategic lens for gaining a balanced perspective on internal strengths and weaknesses, and external opportunities and threats. We saw how this could be applied to business decisions, personal career choices, or even evaluating a new venture like our handmade scarf business example. First principles thinking, the innovator's approach of breaking down problems to their fundamental truths to build solutions from the ground up, questioning all assumptions. We discussed how this approach led to breakthroughs in electric vehicle battery costs by looking at raw material prices rather than accepting market rates. The Eisenhower Matrix, the essential prioritization tool for distinguishing between the urgent and the important, helping us focus our energy where it matters most. We explored how this simple 2x2 grid can transform how we manage our time, like it did for Miguel, who finally gained control over his workday. Structured pros and cons lists with weighting, an analytical upgrade to simple lists, allowing for more nuanced and personalized evaluation of options. We applied this to the decision about pursuing a postgraduate degree while working, seeing how the weighted analysis revealed insights that a simple list might miss. Second-order thinking, the crucial practice of looking beyond immediate consequences to anticipate the longer-term ripple effects of our decisions. We saw how this applies to everything from eating cake to implementing new business software, helping us avoid solutions that create bigger problems down the road. The Feynman technique, the powerful method for achieving true understanding by forcing ourselves to explain complex ideas in the simplest possible terms. We explored how this approach reveals gaps in our knowledge and deepens our comprehension, as in our blockchain technology example. And mind mapping, the visual thinking tool for brainstorming, organizing information, and seeing connections in a non-linear way. We created a colorful, branching map for our healthy eating presentation, showing how this visual approach engages more of our brain. Throughout this exploration, a central theme has emerged. Framework thinking is not about adopting a rigid, one-size-fits-all approach. It's about developing flexible, adaptable, structured thinking. It's about cultivating a mindset where you consciously choose the right mental tool for the task at hand, knowing when structure is needed and when intuition or creativity should lead. It's about having a repertoire of approaches to call upon, empowering you to engage with complexity rather than shy away from it. Finally, we address the vital question of how to make framework thinking a lasting part of your life. We emphasize that it's a journey of continuous learning and practice. It involves actively seeking out useful frameworks, internalizing them by understanding their core principles, starting small with deliberate practice on just 1 or 2 models, and consciously looking for opportunities, big and small, to apply these tools in your everyday work and personal life. We highlighted the importance of reflection, asking yourself how the application went, what worked, what didn't, as the key to refining your skills and building true competence. Final reflection. Take a moment to consider your journey through this audiobook. What was the most valuable insight for you personally? Which framework seemed most immediately applicable to your life? What's one specific situation where you could apply that framework in the coming week? Just holding these thoughts in mind increases the likelihood you'll put this knowledge into practice. I want to extend my sincere gratitude to you for investing your valuable time and attention in this audiobook. In a world that constantly pulls our focus in a million directions, taking deliberate steps to improve the quality of your thinking is perhaps one of the most profound and high-leverage investments you can possibly make in yourself. It might seem like a small action to consciously try using the Eisenhower matrix to plan your day, or to apply the 5 whys to a recurring frustration, or to use the Feynman technique to explain something to a friend. But these small, consistent actions compound over time. Like drops of water carving stone, the regular application of structured thinking gradually reshapes how you perceive problems, make decisions, and interact with the world. The benefits extend far beyond simply solving today's immediate problems more effectively. Cultivating framework thinking builds a lifelong capability, a mental resilience and adaptability that allows you to face future challenges, uncertainties, and opportunities with greater clarity, reduce stress, and enhanced effectiveness. It's about building a more intentional, proactive, and fulfilling life. Think about Sarah, our overwhelmed marketing manager from the introduction. By gradually incorporating framework thinking into her work, starting with just the Eisenhower matrix for prioritization, then adding the 5 whys for troubleshooting campaign issues, then using mind mapping for creative planning, she transformed not just her effectiveness, but her entire experience of work. The chaos became manageable, the stress diminished, her confidence grew, her team noticed the difference in her clarity and leadership. And perhaps most importantly, she rediscovered the joy and purpose in her work that had been buried under the avalanche of reactive tasks. Your journey might look different from Sarah's. Your challenges, your goals, your context are unique, but the fundamental power of bringing structure to complexity, of having reliable mental tools at your disposal, of approaching situations with a framework rather than just reaction, that power is universal. And it's now available to you. So as we conclude, I want to leave you with a gentle but firm challenge. Don't let this just be interesting information that fades away. Choose one framework or mental model that particularly resonated with you during our time together. Just one that feels relevant and potentially helpful right now. Perhaps it's second-order thinking for a big decision you're contemplating, or mind mapping for a project you need to plan, or simply the Eisenhower matrix for tomorrow's to-do list. Commit to consciously applying that one chosen tool at least once in the coming week. Just one attempt. Notice how it feels. Observe the process. See what insights emerge. After you've tried it, take 5 minutes to reflect. Write down a few notes if it helps. What was the situation? Which framework did you use? How did it influence your thinking or actions? Was the outcome different than it might have been otherwise? What did you learn from the attempt? This simple cycle, choose, apply, reflect, is the engine that will drive your progress on this journey. Thank you once again for joining me on this exploration of the power and practice of framework thinking. I genuinely hope you found it valuable, insightful, and most importantly, may you feel inspired and equipped to start using these powerful tools to bring greater clarity, confidence, effectiveness, and perhaps even a little more calm into your increasingly complex world.